This is Let's Discuss MMA, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects on traditional martial arts, aka Taekwondo. So, as the title explains, it's going to be basically a video on if Taekwondo is viable in modern combat sports. Specifically, my channel will be talking about MMA. So, in the first half of this video, I'm just going to be explaining what Taekwondo is. The second portion is going to be explaining the pros and cons of Taekwondo, mostly the viability, practicality of Taekwondo and MMA. And then finally, to wrap up the video, my complete verdict on how I feel about Taekwondo personally. Could it be viable? What things we could take away from the sport of Taekwondo, and Taekwondo as a self-defense. So if you guys would like to skip around, I'm going to leave portions in the description box. Thanks again for watching. Taekwondo is the art of punching and kicking originating from Korea. So looking at the beginning origins of Taekwondo, the earliest form of Taekwondo was formed in the 1940s, 50s, and the first governing body was formed in 1959 by Korea Taekwondo Association. We're going to be breaking down at least two main styles that were widely used and taught in modern Taekwondo. So the first style is ITF, standing for International Taekwondo Federation, formed in 1966. And we have the WT style, which is Kukkiwon style, and as you guys know it, the Olympic style, which was formed in 1972. There's not a huge difference between these two. ITF is more self-defense while WT is sport oriented. ITF does focus more on hand techniques compared to WT. And I guess the biggest difference that I can see visually is definitely that ITF utilizes more of a points style sparring you see like in karate with more hand techniques, more blitzes, while as WT is more sport oriented. It is full contact, but we see a lot of more focusing on kicks, the hands down style. Both are judged in point style scoring, and they win off based on points or knockout. While knockouts do happen, it's very rare, especially in modern Taekwondo, but it does happen. In general, though, the gist is that they're both forms of Taekwondo, branches of Taekwondo, but it is Taekwondo. So I don't want people to confuse the two for like karate or any other form of, because it is Taekwondo. So in general, the format that Taekwondo follows is Pumse, which is forms, Kyorugi, which is sparring, Kyokpa, which is breaking boards, Honshinsu, which is self-defense techniques, Tonjigi, which is throwing techniques, and most importantly, the mindset that traditional martial arts have is a focus on mental and ethical discipline, etiquette, justice, respect, self-confidence, and leadership skills. And when we look at some forms of tojangs, they do have self-defense techniques and forms with bow staffs and knives and sticks, but all depends on the tojang, which means school um, or academy for Taekwondo. It all depends on who's teaching what and what their curriculum is. But that's basically a breakdown of Taekwondo. But today, we're obviously going to be focusing on the practicality, more so the sparring and the self-defense aspects of Taekwondo. So the pros for Taekwondo are obviously going to be the kicks. There are roundhouse kicks, front kicks, tornado kicks, spinning back kicks, spinning wheel kicks, spinning hook kicks, back kicks, axe kicks. The list goes on for how many kicking techniques that are formed in under the management of Taekwondo, under the discipline of Taekwondo. And so obviously the pros are going to be a bunch of kicks. Kicks are very useful, especially in real fighting. If we look at the origins of kicking and how we look back at it when we're watching the movies back in the day, we thought kicks were useless. And obviously, kicks are the most powerful weapons we have. And so that utilizing these kicks, especially because Taekwondo has been recorded to have one of the hardest kicks in history, comparing it to the likes of Muay Thai, karate, kickboxing. Those disciplines are known to literally wreak havoc and destruction. But we see that Taekwondo, especially the back kick for Taekwondo, is one of the hardest and strongest kicks to ever been recorded. And so, if we look at these techniques, we look at these kicks, Taekwondo definitely has an edge in the kicking department compared to any other discipline martial arts, in my opinion, because it's so versatile. You can use it at any point given. You don't need too much distance at times. You could throw it just right off the back. I mean, there's a lot of things we just saw in that video prior to show you that kicking techniques and kicking from a Taekwondo stance or kicking with Taekwondo technique could be used in different situations and utilized in different tactics. As far as we continue to talk about the pros in Taekwondo, This is something that people may disagree with me on topics of this because I believe that one of the pros is actually a blocking technique or blocking techniques in Pumse that we learn from white belt all the way to black belt that can be utilized in modern martial arts. Just know that when we watch this video, as Carl Van Roon, who is a complete legend in the world of striking, explains that these techniques can be used in different ways, and you can also modify these techniques to kind of fit your style. So I'm not saying that this is exclusively just to Taekwondo. These blocking techniques can be seen in any other discipline of martial arts, but I'm gonna let Carl Van Roon explain it in this video that I'm gonna play. But just know that Carl Van Roon is a complete legend that has trained with the likes of Israel Adesanya and Alexander Volkanovski.
Like, are they even effective? Do they work? Why do I never see anybody do them in sparring? And furthermore, why don't I see them use them in, for example, mixed martial arts? If there's something that's effective, why do I never see them? So in this video, I wanted to address that, right, and show you how you might be able to use traditional martial arts blocks in an effective way. It's going to be a little different to exactly how they look at patterns or in forms or kata, but I hope this will give you some inspiration about how to use the knowledge of the past and apply it to the modern age.
And finally, the most important but not least in the pro list is going to be footwork. Taekwondo is elusive, it's fast, it creates a lot of blitz opportunities. The biggest thing is distance management, moving in and out of range with relative ease. You're not limited to mobility issues when you have the Taekwondo stance. And so that is definitely one of the biggest pros I believe that Taekwondo does have. So now we're going to be talking about the cons. It's going to be obviously the punch technique, the poor boxing, I would like to say, little to no punches in Taekwondo. And when I mean boxing, I'm not stating the discipline of boxing. I'm not saying obviously incorporate boxing techniques into Taekwondo when it's two different disciplines. We should all respect each other's disciplines. But I think that when we learn Taekwondo, when people learn Taekwondo, it's very obvious that the punching capability is very, very little. And the viability of punching in Taekwondo, especially in the sparring situations that we see in Taekwondo scene, is very limited. So that's going to hinder someone in MMA. It's definitely going to hinder someone in a combat sports setting. And so that's going to hurt. Obviously, going into Taekwondo, when you see a lot of Olympic style Taekwondo, you see a lot of that hands down style. You see a lot of just kicking without really putting their hands up. And in MMA, that's going to get you hurt, right? The first things you learn in MMA class is putting your hands to your face. And so when you go into this hands-on style, unless you're properly doing the right things as far as like distance management, you know where to blitz in and out, right? And those are only very few guys that can do that in MMA. And if you are trained properly, it does help and it does work. We saw guys like MVP who went against Kevin Holland that absolutely, and Kevin Holland is no joke on the feet either, that absolutely obliterated him. And also in his recent fight, he did lose, unfortunately, but even against someone like Ian Gary, who is a confident striker, Ian Gary wanted no part of his game on the feet. And so we do see it work. I think this is not really a con in itself because it could be used properly. I mean, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is not a Taekwondo fighter, but he is a karate fighter, which also does utilize that hands down style. And he has shown that it is obviously super effective against pretty much any striker as long as you know what you're doing. And so this could be a con and a pro, the hands-on style, but I think most what I'm talking about in this scenario is the hands-on style could get you hurt with a big shot and put your lights out. And this lastly, the biggest thing in Taekwondo and the most important thing is there's absolutely no grappling. And in MMA, in modern MMA, and even as we saw Hoist Gracie in UFC 1 do it, without grappling, you are at a complete disadvantage. And it doesn't have to necessarily be anything special, right? But it's just that Taekwondo does not have any grappling techniques. Like once you're on the ground, you're done. And so that's why this itself is one of the biggest cons and why it potentially would hurt somebody in an MMA run or how it could hinder their performance in MMA. So some respectable fighters that have a taekwondo base, and I know all these guys are obviously trained in other disciplines like Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, whatever the case may be. But the point of the story is the origin is taekwondo, and that's what's important right here. So just to name a few is Yair Rodriguez, Mirko Krokop, Tan Lee, Benson Henderson, Anderson Silva, Anthony Pettis. These were guys that have proven that Taekwondo can work at the highest level of combat sports. And I think what's most important to note and to take away from this video is it's not about the martial arts. It's about the martial artist. This video isn't made to praise or bash Taekwondo. It's just to show that every martial arts and discipline has their pros and cons and can be utilized. And that if we come together as a combat sports community and bring all those things together, whether it be boxing, whether it be Muay Thai, whether it be wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu, that's what we get called MMA, right? And that's why we love it. It's a mixture of different disciplines and combat sports meshed together, and that's the beauty of MMA. Thanks again, guys.